Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. July 29th is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, in the house here today at KMED. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon. We get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics through 10 years now worth and almost 400 shows that we've brought you every weekend for a long time here at KMED. And kind of we're growing old together, aren't we now, I suppose, as we continue on here. But what a year it's been, certainly 2017. Joe, in the real estate market here this summer has been, I mean, it's so busy right now. I'm so surprised. I'm not surprised. The demand of people wanting to come here has not slowed down. If anything, it's maybe even accelerated, because I go to meetings all the time and I hear agent after agent talking about, I got buyer needs for this, and there's not enough inventory to cover that.
But it's interesting, the contrast of 10 years ago when we started and to today. And I think right now we're starting to see that movement that was just on hold for about 7 years there. People that there was pent-up buyer demand to move to this region. That's never going to end. People are always going to want to kind of make their way here, and they come up here, fall in love with it, and want to be part of it.
For all sorts of reasons they come here. Work. Yep. I mean, there's work people coming for work, coming just to, anyway, all sorts of things. Well, today in the house, Kevin Riddle from Sweetwater Sanitation has joined us. Kevin, first of all, thanks for, I know you're busy. You're a busy guy in the middle of the summer, I'm sure. So thank you for coming down and spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. So people really in general, when you think about out of sight, out of mind. I swear, you don't think about sanitation until if it hits you in the face. Something's backed up in your house, something major's happened, and then all of a sudden you think about it. Is that a true statement, or tell me what you experience with that?
It's a very true statement. A lot of times when the septic tanks are not exposed, people don't think about it, they don't see it, and it's not until it's backing up in the house before they hopefully not hitting them in the face, but it's backing up in the house, and then they're in scramble.
And then they have to call you, and of course you get water damage, etc., which is number one. Remember, the number one problem in homes that comes is water damage. So this is another one to add to that list there if you're not careful, right?
Yes.
Well, tell me about the business of the sanitation business, because you say there's a number of people in Southern Oregon who are in this business. I suppose you're all busy right now. Tell me what is going on right now in that world.
It's septic pumping is really a seasonal business. Most of the business is done during the summer.
Okay.
And then during the winter, unfortunately, most of the stuff is emergencies, things where people didn't get them taken care of in the summertime and everything. And then we have some
regular, called deferred maintenance issues that come along. Okay, yeah.
And it's been pretty busy and everything, which is kind of normal. And then there's a lot of house movement, so we're really busy with the septic inspections and everything. And then our company does grease traps as well for the local restaurants.
Okay. Now, remember, there was I think it was it 1 or 2 years ago, the Oregon Association of Realtors, the forms that, realtors use. When we first started, Joe, you just checked a box regarding septics and septic systems and things, just in one box almost. Now you've got like a 3-page report, a 3-page addendum that has to be signed. So that really changed the way people, at least the way you view the sanitation systems. Is that right? Has that helped or hurt?
They reflected the importance.
The importance of them.
It's actually a minimum of an 8-page report now.
8-page report.
8-page report, and it's basically you're looking at what's there, and based on the code of when it was put in. So 2017, you're looking at something that's 20, 30 years old. You're looking at, does it meet the codes from when it was installed? Not today's codes.
Okay.
Yeah, because like back in the day, you didn't have to have, the tank didn't have to necessarily be watertight. You didn't want it leaking. Mm-hmm. But if water was seeping in between the riser or the lid, that's still okay. Now they have to be sealed completely.
How in the world would you know what the standards were in 1920 or 30
they're
or 40?
grandfathered in, basically, by the standards they were
grandfathered in?
Grandfathered in, and it helps that you've been in the industry. I've been in it for 17 years. So.
Have you seen those things change over the years?
Yeah, and we go to classes and everything. We have to be certified. Like I'm a certified installer. My son's a certified maintenance provider. Uh-huh. You have to be certified to be able to do the inspections. But we do not install because we don't want a conflict of interest. That we're not trying to sell you a new drain field when we do an inspection.
Right.
Okay.
And so you have to kind of have some experience to know. Okay, well, this is how it was back in the day. Sometimes you have to research. I've had ones where we actually had to look up EPA records from a 1978 system, and come to find out there was 13 in the entire country put in.
Wow.
Three of them survived after 2 years. And there's those three, they all failed within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But they were from 1978. So sometimes you have to do some homework and really research it, and then just having the experience of knowing what was being done and what's being done now. And then the classes are telling us, well, this is what needs to be done now and everything. And so that's the benefit of the way we did the inspections before. If you just had the pumper's license, you could do the inspection. Now you do have to have continuing education.
All right. So when you go to sell a home, correct? Now make sure I'm right now, Joe. So when you go to sell your home, say, and you have a septic system, you got to mark several boxes, and so you're going to have to come in and have the septic has to be pumped, correct? When you sell a home, right?
Generally, yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah. And then you also can have a septic inspection, correct?
Yes.
Now it's not required, right?
Correct.
All right. So the buyer or the seller can negotiate that, or one of them has to pay for that. So do most people have inspections? I'm just curious as to when you're going to sell it, because the buyer, at least, I would assume.
I want to know.
If I'm a buyer, I want to know what condition that septic is. I don't care how new or how old it is. I want to know. Is that smart?
It's very smart. We get at least 3 different customers for the 2 companies that we own. We get at least 3 calls a year, and they're having a problem with their septic system. Oh, okay. We ask them questions. Oh, well, we just bought it last year. Did you get a septic inspection? Nope. And now you have a problem.
Yep.
And now you have a problem.
Yeah. So it's always very smart, whether it's required by your loan provider or whatever to have an inspection. It's always a great idea to get it, so you know what it is, what's there, is it working, so you can plan your future, because it's a huge investment on a septic system.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge investment.
Oh, yeah.
That living in the city, you don't see that.
No.
But you'll see that with the septic system when there's a problem. If you get the inspection done first, when you buy it, then you at least have a heads up. Okay, I know what's going on, and it's working.
Can I ask my seller for a little help? Can I meet him in the middle to bring it up to code or bring it up to specs? Now there could be a little room in there when you identify, when you're armed with knowledge.
Yes.
And you know what you're up against, and then it's like, hey, I'll put 2,000 forward. You put 2,000. We could get this all taken care of, and there's probably a reasonable outcome once you know what you're up against.
Yes. We do have to kind of be careful when we're doing the inspections with the recommendations that we make, because we don't want them to anybody to feel like, oh, I have to do this as part of the sale. No, sometimes we're going to make a recommendation like risers. They're always a great idea. They save money in the long run. And it's like, well, that's more on the buyer.
Right.
And so we have to be careful with how we word the recommendations. That's
That's our real
problem.
estate agent. That's your broker that's going to take care of that for you. Yeah.
So this is how it is, but this is what we think you should do.
Right.
Like, well, I just did a inspection for Pete not too long ago, and I had some recommendations for the buyer and talked to her and said, well, this is what's there. This is what I would recommend. It's working now, but I recommend these little tweaks to make it work better for you. And yeah, the customer said, yeah, go ahead and do it.
I'd like to know that. Yeah.
And remember now, because when, let's say Kevin does a septic inspection, and you're going to turn that in, with paperwork, the if you're having a loan, for example, the loan officer, the underwriters, the underwriters, okay, the underwriters are going to flag that, and they're going to want to have an inspection. They want to make sure that is completed or something before they will approve the loan, right? I mean, that happens a lot, I would assume.
They know the game.
Yes, and that's another thing that we have to be careful with the wording, because we don't want the loan officer to think that, oh, this needs to be done. And so we try to, sometimes we'll do it as a separate thing. We'll just say, okay, here's your inspection, and then separately we'll say, we recommend this to make the system better for the future.
Very similar to home inspection reports, and how careful they have to kind of word that and put that out there. And then they will point out a critical situation that they would find that is absolutely demands attention. But other than that, you've got at least an appraisal of the nuts and bolts of what's going on with your systems.
Well, we're talking, by the way, with Kevin Riddle from Sweetwater Sanitation today on the Real Estate Show about septic systems and sanitation of your homes as you sell or buy them. These are things that, well, it's probably it's a major investment, as you say, in your home. And if you're buying in rural properties, you as a buyer want to know what that system is doing and how it's working. Now, there's different types of systems. I don't know, and I don't know them. I have to say, I'm not very good at this. But tell people what today. I mean, I know there's a lot of old systems out there, and I assume don't they have to be replaced eventually? Won't they eventually fail and have to be replaced?
They do.
Okay. What am I replacing today with? Tell me the technology today, Kevin, of which this, and I assume it's probably pretty advanced.
It depends on the site property and the drainage of the property.
Okay.
There's still the tried and true pipe and gravel gravity feed system. You were still
pipe
seeing
and gravel gravity feed system.
Yes.
Okay. And
that's what a lot of your old standard systems are.
Okay.
It's just more upgraded, newer piping, newer tank systems, but that's still the tried and true.
Okay.
And then you have sand filters, which actually sand filters are newer technology, but they are actually going away now. They have ATT systems. Advantex is one of the makers out from Orenco Systems out of Roseburg.
Okay.
That they're the ones we prefer.
Okay, sure.
And then there's Whitewater and Delta Systems. There's all sorts of different systems, and which is another reason why you want to take care of your system. So, I guess we can get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But you used to have metal tanks, some plastic tanks. The older plastic tanks would deform within 1 year.
Oh, okay.
Of just the ground settling, they would start deforming.
Right.
They have newer plastic tanks that a lot of the contractors will use if they have trouble getting a concrete tank into the lot. Concrete's tried and true, still great systems. Better technology on those as well, better construction on them.
But tell me about drain fields, because that's always the next thing. We got to have a drain field with one of these, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I hear all sorts of different stories about drain fields. It's amazing how you come up to sometimes, Joe.
Is a drain field a leach field?
Yes.
You ask people, where's your septic at? No, I don't know. Where's the drain field? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. These are the things that as a homeowner, you got to know, because you could be driving over into your drain field and destroying it, or even over the top of your septic system. All right.
Generally, like a gravity feed system, the pipes are about 24 inches deep. Sometimes they're not supposed to be more than 36 inches deep.
Okay.
And wildlife can, like cattle and horses, they can crush it, especially during the winter when it's wet. Vehicles being driven over it can crush it. So you need to know where your drain field is.
Mark the thing with something. That's my thing. Mark it with those reflectors or something.
Yeah. And then on like the sand filters, it's a box. It's much harder to drive over top of those, but we've seen people do it. They're a lot more fragile, and those you got to keep the weeds down, because we've seen the weeds destroy them, because people just like, it's a sand filter, I'm not supposed to mess with it.
Okay.
And the weeds will outgrow it and destroy the pipes. And so they're a very fragile system, but the drain field is the most important part of your entire system.
It's the most important part. Okay.
Yes.
Doesn't it sound like we could get a segment on just horror stories?
The next segment we're going to hear what some people have done.
The things you don't want to do. There's valuable lessons.
But before we continue with that,
because the whole purpose of pumping the tank is to protect the drain field. You do not want solids to accumulate too much in the tank and go out to the drain field. You always hear the people, I've had a system for 30 years, never had to have it pumped. They've destroyed their drain field.
Mm-hmm. They destroyed the drain field.
Yes.
I see, because so much solid would build up, it would then flow into the drain field. Once it overflowed, instead of just water, liquid, you have the solids coming up and out, right?
Yes.
Is that how that works? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll bet you. Okay. All right.
Even with a good system and regular pumping, you're going to get minute amounts still traveling out to the drain field. Right. You don't take care of your system, you're going to get sludge buildup.
How often should people if you may have lived in your place for years, how often should you pump the septics out?
It's recommended every 3 to 5 years, depending on the number of people living in the house. So the more
3
people
to 5
you have,
years.
The more people you have living there, the more often you want to have it done. Our company does not recommend anybody going more than 7 years.
Oh, there's people more than that out there.
Yeah,
I know
that's
that.
the next segment.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it's funny because I think I can't remember if it's U of O or OSU. One of them puts out some documentation and everything, and they actually have forms that companies are sharing that says one person 19 years.
Okay.
And you never know what's in there. If you're using the wrong kind of toilet paper,
The wrong paper, right?
or baby wipes or stuff like that, you can be filling up your tank. We've had tanks, we could get to the horror story.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
had tanks fill up in 2 years for just 2 people. Normally 2 people can go 5 years, don't go more than 6.
Because they're dumping stuff down the toilets.
They use the wrong brand
Right.
toilet paper.
You know, I've heard about the wrong brands of toilet paper and baby wipes, women's things like that. Don't do that, right?
Those
Because
are
it's going to
problems in our-
stay in there. It's going to just pump up your deal.
And those are
Yes.
problems in our public sewer system.
I'm going to say, and don't
users
do it
as
in the
well.
public
Right.
system either. Anyway, we're with Kevin Riddle from Sweetwater Sanitation. Some horror stories. What are the dumb things that people have done with their septics, and how's Kevin got to fix them?
Yeah.
Things like that. All that continues in the Real Estate Show here in KMD when we return right after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. July 29th is our date. Pete and Joe, the real estate guys, with you here today. Don't forget, for any real estate advice you need, you can give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. You can write to us at Pete or Joe at realestateshoworegon.com. Our website also has cell numbers and all that kind of thing. We'd love to hear from you and help you in any way that we can. You know, today, what are you doing? What? Are you going to the...
Just a shout out to Keith Urban. I'm babysitting this weekend. Shout out to Keith Urban if you're listening to the Real Estate Show. Thanks for coming in and stealing Pete and my thunder. You know, we're kind of the local media guys. We're small fish and in a
They're
big
just
pond
getting
this
started
weekend.
when we're on the air, so you know there's a long way to go.
They're great entertainment. I'm really excited. I think people are going to really take to this event. Like I said in the open of the program, they make a concerted effort to impact the community in a really positive way, and a lot of groups and youth groups that are going to benefit from abilities to work with them.
Learned a lot today so far here with Kevin Riddle, who's our guest from Sweetwater Sanitation, about sanitation, septic systems, and all the things. We left the last segment about drain fields because, you know, that's one of the things that I was at, we had a friend of ours, you know, he had sold his place, and the septic works great, you know, and stuff. And then when they went out there and it was
One person
all
lived
messed
on the
up,
property.
all messed
One
up.
person, yeah.
It leaked. And so what we've heard Kevin say is that is the number one problem, is that drain fields are not maintained. Is that right?
Yes.
And how do you maintain then that drain field?
By taking care of the tank and getting the tank pumped properly, and then just watching out landscaping and keeping
that's
cattle
it.
and everything. Yeah, for the most part, yes. That is all it. Oh, well, and then you want to make sure that you do not have any fixtures that are leaking. Toilets can flood out a drain field system to where
okay.
you can't even use it. So it's important to make sure any leaks are fixed immediately.
Especially if they go into the system.
Yes.
So like your hose doesn't matter that much as the toilet or even a faucet that would just leak and fill.
And my
fill
leaky
that
toilet,
up.
my leaky toilet in my residential neighborhood in Medford, it can go on till I get the time to go to Home Depot to get a new part for or whatever. But if I've got a septic, that's a totally
get on
different
it
pressure
now.
Yes.
on my system, my sanitation system.
Now
Yeah,
you're-
I didn't know. I didn't realize that till you brought that out. Yeah.
Now, what I've also learned from Kevin is that, you know, don't put stuff down those systems. And you're talking, what types of things should you, not do? I mean, really just
What kinds of really
toilet paper.
dumb
Isn't that isn't that the smartest thing to do? And that's it?
We've had people put kitty litter down toilets.
Oh,
Kitty litter.
We've had people put dog food to get the bacteria going. And what does dog food do when you get it wet? It just plugs up the pipe.
I'm going to say it gets soft.
Yes.
Okay.
It does not. There are additives out there for to keep the bacteria working properly. There's a lot of different opinions. So some companies say don't use it at all. Some say use it.
Now I've heard that Charmin and Kirtland's Costco's papers, toilet papers, should not be used in septic systems. Is that true?
Yes. It's too high quality of paper. It does not break down properly.
Did you hear that? People listen to that. Think of that. Don't put those types of things in there because they just become solid. They just fill it up.
Yes.
And that's what you're trying to avoid, or at least slow down, is the filling up with a solid process in the tank.
Yep.
Let the water go out, the solids drop to the bottom.
Yeah.
And then you pump them out. That's what you do.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that sounds pretty damn simple.
doesn't sound that hard,
No, it's
right?
not hard to do.
But when
But
people,
God, it costs people so much money.
but when people have situations like you talked about in the previous segment where they fill up and then their solids are pouring over into their drain field, what kind of health hazards would that be? I would think, first off, it can't be good for anything you're trying to grow or and your yard around that area, and just having that situation doesn't sound good. So close proximity to my home.
Well, really, there's not. It's gonna just plug up the system. Yeah. There's no real health hazards. It's just gonna plug up the system, and then you're gonna have all sorts of problems. The way the systems are designed and everything, as long as you don't have your garden over the drain field or near the sand filter, you're fine. So there's not anything to really. We don't want people to be just I got to be away from this. It's dangerous and everything.
If it doesn't sound good though.
No.
If a drain field is compromised, as you say, is it ruined? You can't fix it. You have to start over, or what happens at that point?
Sometimes it just kind of depends on how bad it's ruined. Sometimes it's just a plug up and it can be cleared, it can be jetted, and everything. But when it fails and it's complete, then you have to go with a whole new drain field. And that's why we always say, we're trying to protect the drain field because it can destroy the value of your property.
Oh yeah,
greatly. Because if you have limited area to where you don't have room for another drain field, a replacement drain field, then you've lost the value of the house. Nobody can live there because there's no functioning sanitation service.
I know you don't install them, but say people who are building new construction in the rural areas that need these types of things, what are they installing today? What types are going into these new homes that we're seeing being built?
You're seeing the standard gravity feed system and more of the ATT systems. That's the sand filters are going away. It's too hard to get it's a special sand that you have, and it's getting too hard to get the sand, and the cost is coming down on the ATT systems to where they'll just go with the ATT system.
So they're using that today.
Yeah. And an ATT system is
advanced technology treatment.
Advanced technology treatment.
And by having that, another reason to take care of your system. And when you have to upgrade to an ATT system, you have to have a maintenance provider. They have to come out and they have to inspect it every year. So you've spent the money for the upgrade, and then now you have continuing yearly expense that you didn't if you had a gravity feed system.
Kind of like HVAC, and you got to come in and take care of the system every year out of the thing. Now I've got to bring government into our conversation for just a minute, because when we did the building permit show, we learned that Jackson County didn't require building permits until 1974 and these kinds of things. So I'm curious as how it relates to this. Government today, the county does not regulate this. If I go to get my thing, or if I have a problem, who's the government overseer of septic systems in Oregon now? Is it DEQ? You said
it's the DEQ. DEQ supervises all of us pumpers. We have to be licensed with the DEQ. Installers, we're all licensed through DEQ for that as well. And then all the installs are inspected and approved by the DEQ itself.
They're doing all of that. So they have to come back and inspect these.
Yes.
So when so you have to have a permit, obviously, to get those in, don't you?
Sometimes there can be several inspections. You have to do test holes for a new system. You have to do test holes. That gets inspected, and then when they start doing the construction, before you make the connection to the house, that has to be instructed before it can be covered up. So there's lots of different inspections to make sure that the system is being done right.
Overall, I mean, you travel from Klamath County, Jackson, Josephine, probably even beyond these places to do this. Are the things coming in today, is it better today than when you started, or are we going to go through a series with so many thousands of these out there that have been there for a long time? Tell me what you're seeing overall as you go about.
Well, everything that we see is all in the past.
Right.
We are not servicing new systems.
Unless you're going to go pump it.
Well, no.
You don't even pump it?
A brand new system, we're not going to see it for probably 5 years.
Sure. Okay.
So everything that we're dealing with generally is at least 5 years old.
Okay. All right.
And we see all sorts of systems, and we see where the installers back in the day, a lot of them, they just wanted to put it in the ground and go, and that's where they didn't have risers and stuff like that. And then now the DEQ has had to go in and go, okay, you need to do this on the newer stuff, because like sand filters, there's older sand filters that have to be blown out and flushed out because solids accumulated.
Yeah, they're full, yeah.
Back in the day, they didn't require the power ports be exposed. Now they have to, because nobody was doing it. And it's like, so now you have to have a riser the lid at the surface. You have to have blow-out ports. You have to have it accessible for it to be serviced. Back in the day, they didn't have any of that.
And you still see those out there and things. So do you think we're going to have a crisis at some point, or something of these things failing in mass kinds of things, or is it just kind of gradually as we've gone?
Everything has actually been improving really well. The newer systems, they're a lot more expensive, but I don't think that we're going to have nearly the problems like we did with the older systems. It's such a better environment now.
Over time, they might not be that expensive.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the issue that is not the septic systems. It's more on the pumper side of trying to get rid of the waste. That has become an issue. But no, the septic systems are getting better and better.
When you talk get rid of the waste, he has to take it someplace. He has to take it to the treatment plants here. Then maybe that's not going to happen. We'll talk about that when we come back. And the final part of our show is, how do you take care of your system? I hear all sorts of things. I should put this in my system, that in my system. We're going to hear Kevin's comments about that when we return the Real Estate Show here on KMED right after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED. July the 29th is our date. Pete Belcastro, Joe with you here in the Real Estate Show at KMED. Next week here on the show, it'll be a John L. Scott Market Watch show. We'll update you on the latest SOMLS stats and what took place during the month of July that we're just entering out of here by Monday. It's been busy. Lots of people visiting the Valley right now. Big activity this weekend. Hope you're going to have a safe one as well. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com, which is our website. Today here in the house, the KMED studio, Kevin Riddle from Sweetwater Sanitation has been kind of giving us an update on kind of septic systems and the kinds of things that are you need to help them run well, because they can break up real estate transactions and deals faster than anything that I can think of. Is because the buyer doesn't want to. If the buyer finds out that the septic system isn't working or the drain field's ruined, they're going to walk away from that house, right? Kevin, right? Yes. They're going to walk away, and they're going to leave the seller to have to fix it, because now you have to report it because you know that there's a problem. You may not have known it before, but you know it now. And, we always say, we want you to be smart real estate consumers here. And septics, as Kevin says, out of sight, out of mind. Don't ever think that they're just working and they're pumping, they're doing fine if you haven't even looked at it for a long time, right?
Yes.
That's it.
You want to at least look at it every 3 to 5 years.
Every 3 to 5 years, and to pump them every
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years, and you can even have them inspected if you think there's a problem with it, because sometimes it may be, as you say, an old tank. Mm-hmm. It may be
maybe a plug up in the drain field.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of times you can get, if it's just a plug up the drain field, that's all it is. You get that fixed, and then the system's working again.
It may be. It may just get it before it becomes a disaster.
Yes.
Is to be aware of what it is around you on your property. It's still the biggest investment you have, and septics can really screw them up. So you really got to be careful, because Kevin has. I bet you've seen probably about everything.
I think so. I'm still surprised every day, though.
Are you really? Yeah,
yes.
They're still out there. And what are the reaction of the homeowners when you see something like this? Are they aware of it generally, or are they just not aware?
It's rare that they're aware of it. Yeah. It's usually a surprise to them. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know I needed to pump it. Oh, I didn't know it was doing that.
Out of sight.
Yep.
Out of mind.
Yep.
And then you're going to come back and pay for it later.
Yep. Oh, we get customers call all the time. Oh, my alarm's been ringing for the last week. It's like, well, if you'd called us, because we've done it before, if you'd called us the very next day, you would have saved yourself a lot of money, because it's a matter of just changing the pump or a float. Jeez. Now the whole thing has to be pumped.
Yeah. For
anybody to be able to do any work, and you just wasted a lot of money.
You're wasting a lot of money. Yeah. So deferred maintenance, for our listeners, are very aware of this, that Kevin, over the years of deferred maintenance on your house. We talk a lot about that. We don't talk a lot about deferred maintenance on septic systems. But again, these are things that are going to come back and haunt you. And I know some people think I can get away with it, but really, you just can't anymore. There's too many inspections that people and buyers are pretty smart, right?
Yes.
All right. Now, how do I take care of my system? I hear all sorts of things. That I can buy something, I can pour down the septic into the tanks and down my toilets and this kind of thing. I've heard from you say toilet papers and Charmins and the Costco brands, they're so high that they just sit in the systems.
Yeah, they just
baby
fill up
wipes.
the tanks. Yep, baby wipes are a nightmare.
Women's products and things like that. Don't do it. Okay. What do I do to take care of my system? What should I do?
Okay, of course, get it pumped every 3 to 5 years,
Okay.
depending on the people. And then you want to limit any kind of antibacterial products and bleach. I'm a big fan of bleach, so I'll never tell people don't use bleach. You just want to use limited amounts because it kills the bacteria in the tank.
You mean just pour bleach? People would pour bleach down?
No,
What?
some people use a lot of bleach when they do their laundry, or they're cleaning.
Okay.
And I'm a fan of bleach, but you want to limit how much. It shouldn't be more than like a cup a week. Anything more than that, you're gonna destroy the bacteria in the tank. The tank has live bacteria in it naturally that you get from your gut. You need to just maintain that. That's what the additives. If your bacteria is not working properly, your system stinks. A healthy septic system does not stink.
Now say that again.
A healthy septic system does not stink.
If it's working properly, you won't have a smell.
Correct.
So if you're out there and you smell something, you got a problem somewhere, and it's going to be either in the drain field or somewhere in the tank.
It's usually the tank. You're not
Usually
going to
the
really
tank.
smell the drain field is just deep enough to where or just shallow enough to get oxygen.
Okay.
But you're not going to smell it.
It's the tank.
It's the tank and in the house, because if your venting's not good in the house, that smell travels back to the from the house or tank to back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure you have good venting of the house's pipes and everything.
So I really don't have to put something in my tanks and things.
Usually you don't. The some of the additives, like if you for some reason you used a bunch of bleach to clean something, or you used a lot of antibacterial products, then you can use an additive to just boost the bacteria back up. But there's all sorts of opinions. So we're kind of cautious about people just using additives.
Okay.
Because you can put too much in, and then it's overproductive, and then it's sending sludge out to your drain field.
Yeah, and that's not what we want to do. We have learned that.
Yeah.
So tell me just the services that you provide. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, Kevin, they know exactly what you do.
We pump septic tanks and grease traps. We inspect them and do minor repairs on the septic systems.
Okay.
We service the Rogue Valley, Grants Pass, Medford. We also have our operation in Klamath Falls under Modoc Services Incorporated.
Okay.
And we service Northern California and Klamath County over there. But we're always here we're more than happy to help educate customers. If they just have a question, they can always give us a call. May not get to you right away, but I'll call you back.
Yeah. And the work that you're doing right now, I mean, I know you're doing a lot of pumping, a lot of inspecting. Is the majority of your work right now over a transaction of a sale of a home, over that kind of a thing, or people calling and just having their maintenance done? What is that going on?
It's a mix of both. And we also do vault toilets and stuff like that. But it's during the summer is our busier season and everything. But we do regular maintenance on septic systems, pumping them for the regular cycles, and then doing a lot of real estate transactions too.
Should I get a high efficiency toilets if I have a septic system? Does that matter if I put those in or not?
I don't think it really matters that much. It's just make sure that nothing is leaking, because a leak can flood out the system. So the less water that's in those high efficiency toilets not necessarily is bad for the system. No, it won't hurt the system.
It won't hurt that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you could go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell anybody don't get them. The one thing I would say is garbage disposals are not recommended for septic system.
Garbage disposal, sure.
It does not break down in the tank, the food waste and everything. Eventually,
compost it.
Yeah. Eventually, even in city sewers, garbage disposals can go away because they grind them up too fine. They cause a problem with the city sewer.
Yeah.
Treat your city sewer just like you septic.
Yeah, and you're right about garbage disposals. Yeah, that's solid waste and all those kind of things. Well, it's changing, boys and girls, the way we go. Kevin, thank you so much for being with us. We learned a lot today from you. Sweetwater Sanitation, Kevin Riddle. You can Google him and you'll find him, and he's a good guy and he'll take care of your problem for you. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show. For Pete and Joe, have a great week, everybody. God bless you all. We'll talk to you next Saturday right back here on KMED.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making the Real Estate Show part of your weekend.